Doc! Becky! It's just me then. They got mortars in our position. We're moving. On you. Team survival. When we talk about survival, when we talk about evasion, you should be working together as a team. Being a solo evasionist, being a solo survivalist sucks. There's a lot of work to be on you. And if we're actually trying to retake America, if we're in a fictional fight, you want to be working together as a team. So that's why this is so important to me. Now, why should you listen to us? Well, my name is Michael Jones. I'm a former Air Force Special Warfare TACP and SERE guy. So SERE standing for Survival, Evasion, Resistance, and Escape. I taught people for 6 years. I taught thousands of at-risk DoD members, special operation members, pilots, etc. So this is near and dear to my heart. Afterwards, I was TACP within Special Warfare. So I have a lot of experience here. This is my wheelhouse. This is what I do. Right here with us, we have Preston. He has a bit of training too. Preston, if you want to talk to it.
Yeah, my name's Preston. I got a little bit of time in the Army doing infantry stuff. So just here to help out where I can.
Awesome. So this is important for today's video to have an experienced guy with us who has some military training, because we're going to be setting the scenario here. So why is it important to set the scenario? So you know what types of decisions you need to be making. Otherwise, we're just kind of going willy-nilly. If you don't know, the military is actually professional live action role playing, isn't that a fact? It really is. So this stuff's near and dear to my heart. So in today's scenario, we have a fractured United States. The government, military, and civilian forces are working to repel a foreign invader that's come in and is beginning to wreak havoc upon our country. That's why you see a mix of civilian and military personnel working together, or former military personnel in my case. This is a very possible, realistic scenario. Guys, when I say that this is near and dear to my heart, I mean it. When I was a survival guy, I never wanted anybody to have to ever use any of the information that I'm giving you today, because it'd be a very bad day if you had to use it. But if that day does come, it's important to be prepared. Every week, when I was a survival guy, I would check any of the news listings or anything for any information about military personnel who got into a situation where they need to use my training. Over the course of my military career, a few did, and I thank God that they were able to get away. But you have to understand, I'm going to be rooting for you the same way. If you have to get out there and use this, I want to have been able to teach you in such a way that you're able to get home to your families, that you're able to get back, to be able to continue the fight. So there's a lot to talk about today. If you haven't seen any of our survival videos at this point, you do need to go back. This is not in a beginner's course right here. This is getting to an intermediate to possibly advanced material. So please go back and watch those. If you can't stand to do that, well, stay tuned, but understand you might have some unanswered questions that are answered in earlier videos. With all that being said, we're just sitting here burning daylight, so let's get to it, man. Now, this video is free. All this content is free. This takes us a lot of time to do. So let's go ahead and give a big shout out to our sponsors. Primary Arms keeps all of this content free, and they're cool. They have the coolest pistol optics, the coolest rifle optics, and they're made right here in the mountains of Idaho. That's not true. They're not, but we do love them. Go and give them tons of love. Tell them that, hey, October is Survival October. So ask them for a little bit of survival knowledge. No idea what you'll get, but it could be a good time. Guys, if you're looking to just have some aura farming in your life, Henry Repeating Arms. Listen, I've shot a lot of guns in my time, but every time I like going back to a little piece of Americana history. A lever action is just cool. Give them a lot of love. Henry, they make the cool stuff, guys. And all we can say about them is to love them. But if you check out henrythumb.com, there's some really cool stuff there that we can't talk about. Of course, Nantis will make you a shooting machine. It makes dry fire fun. Go and check them out. And All Ammunition is sponsored by AAC. We're not shooting today, but all of those sponsorships do keep this content completely free. So big thank you to them. Guys, let's get going. With our scenario set, you guys know that we have just lost almost everybody in our reconnoitering element except for me and Preston. Beyond that, we've also been zeroed in by mortars. This is a very bad situation. Now, the thing I do want to impress upon you when it comes to evasion is some of the unpredictability about it and the difference of your techniques and your actions that you're going to take as an evader. In most cases, when it comes to evasion, after the initial contact that you have, you do want to break contact and do an initial movement. That's the thing that you've seen in the past, where you sprint till you can't sprint, run till you can't run, walk until you can't walk, and then you crawl into a hide site. As many miles as you can between you and that individual, the team that saw you, that was engaging you. Now, the thing that we have to think about as well is beyond just a team. If in the case of me and Preston, we had a coordinated ambush executed on our team, you got to know they have drones on them as well. this is always going to be a discussion of what's going to make the most sense. In terms of the types of drones, are these drones that are high flying and keeping an eye on us? Are we able to spot them? Or are we being targeted by FPV drones, which are first-person drones that can maneuver quite well, are typically packed with a high-yield explosive, not a lot, but enough to blow you apart. If we're being targeted by those, there are things we need to think about. If we're in open terrain, sprinting across open terrain is going to get you killed by an FPV drone. Now, where we are right here, if you want to pan the camera right over there, we have very thick terrain that we're in. This is going to make it much harder for FPV drones to target us and make it much harder for any eyes in the skies to target us. So in our case, an initial movement makes a lot of sense. Just understand that if you're not able to move, that you might have to take different actions. Now, in our case, mortars coming in, we have good cover. We need to get out of here or else those mortars are going to straight up kill us. So the first thing we're going to do is we're initial move. The thing that's going to be different, I have Preston with me now. So we're going to do what's called a scrum. A scrum, we're going to stay very close to each other. We might even need to hold on to each other. If one guy is injured or something like that, one guy got hit, you never know what's going to happen. So in our case, we're going to stick very close together and we're going to move as quickly as we can. You guys ready? Let's go. Come. Now right here, what you see is a little bit of micro terrain. Putting this micro terrain between you and your attacker is important because you got to believe they probably have thermal weapon optics. Those optics are awesome. However, they have to see you. By putting terrain, trees in front of us, it makes it much more difficult for them to spot us. Let's continue. Now, as you can see, as I'm sprinting, I'm not just outpacing Preston, or if Preston were in front, he's not just gonna outpace me. We're gonna keep good coordination with each other, making sure that we're staying together. This comes down to training, as well as being observant of what is happening around us. Always check to make sure your buddy's with you. All right, let's continue. Okay. As you're moving, you might hear drones, might hear shouts. As that happens, we're gonna call to each other. Hey, drone overhead, right? Let them know what we're seeing. Now in the case of me and Preston here, we've now put mountains between us, we put micro terrain between us, we put a lot of distance between us and our attackers. We haven't heard shouts, explosions, gunfire, drones, anything. But we have found a nice little drain right here, a drainage ditch that we can take some cover in for an initial hide site, talk about what we need to do next. Let's get into that. Okay, now we're in our initial hide site. What we're looking for right here is we're not looking for something that we can actively fight out of. And we'll be talking about that in just a moment. We want something to give us protection from eyes, ears, eyes in the sky. We have good cover right around us and we have good overhead cover to make sure that we're protected from being seen. Now, a couple things you want to consider when it comes to initial hide site. You want it to be below the eye level of any guy who's moving forward and trying to track you. Any type of trained or untrained attacker, the most common thing they're gonna do, they're gonna be sweeping with their eye line, or they're gonna be looking at their feet, depending on how trained they are. But that good in between makes it very difficult for them to find you. Now, how good are initial hide sites? There have been plenty of times my students have lost me at the initial hide site, so they work extremely well. But once we get to initial hide site, there's something we need to do. We just got out of getting mortared, shot at. We need to go ahead and check each other, do a quick blood sweep to make sure that neither of us are bleeding out and dying. Adrenaline will do crazy things to you, isn't that right, Preston?
I'll do it.
So you might not even feel the pain from the shot. So first thing we're gonna do, I take my rifle, I'm just gonna unsling it really quick, and Preston's gonna do a blood sweep on me. So I'm gonna get my pack off for a sec. He's gonna sweep my back, looking for blood, everything. So you want to get under all those layers and check. And what he's doing is he's pulling his hands away and he's looking for any type of blood. That's why it's called blood sweep. Everything, guys. Get up in there and your buddy, don't be shy. There. Okay. So then I'm going to do the same for him. And if anything feels weird, he's also going to let me know so I know to check that. Man, you got some good pecs, bro. Appreciate it. Gonna check his calves all the way down. Once we're feeling good there, okay, we're both clear. And then we're gonna go ahead and continue. So, some things that we need to immediately think about are our radios. Both me and Preston have radios on us. Now, these are military Prick 152s, but you might be using a Motorola XTS 5000. You might be using a Baofeng, Feng-Gang. In any case, first thing we wanna do is we want to kill our radios, make sure that they're off, because we don't want any possibility of those radio signals triangulating our specific positions. Now, a lot of guys will advise pulling the battery off a radio. The problem with that is going to be that certain radios will Z out, which means it'll clear all data if you do that. Now, that's up to you. If you really want to clear your radio, on certain radios you can just zoom out immediately, like on 152s. It's a quick knob turn. You ever done that accidentally and lost all your frequencies? Yeah, sucks. But if you're being pursued and you're worried about them getting a hold of your radio frequencies of your team, you don't want that to happen. Protect your team. Obviously, you're important, but don't let thousands die just because you don't want to Z out that radio. So do what you need to. In addition to that, cell phones, just don't carry them on you. For military operations, if you must, keep them in a Faraday bag to make sure all signals are blocked. Turn those off. GPS can't track you. It can be spoofed, which means it can give you a wrong position. But a lot of GPS devices, phones, watches, etc., also have other enablers that will allow them to be tracked. So in general, we say GPS units off, don't use them, but there's always a will and a way with certain devices, but we're not going to be getting into that in this particular lesson. Now, from there, we've talked about medical, we've talked about our communication. Now the next thing we need to think about is going to be things like food and water. Now, we just came off an op. We're pretty fueled up. We're feeling good. But we can also take this opportunity to get some water in us. Food, we're pretty much okay on. You can go a long time without food. And we're both a little fat, isn't that right? Yeah, just kidding. We're both in great shape. The final thing that I want to talk about is going to be your evasion posture. So there's two really important things to talk about, and that's going to be who are you dealing with. So what I mean by that is, let's say we're at war with Canada. I don't know why we'd ever go to war with Canada, but if we did, if a Canadian soldier were to capture me, I was to evade, he were to capture me, is he going to follow the law of armed conflict, what we call LOAC? And the answer is yes. A soldier from a first world country is going to, for the most part, follow the law of armed conflict. He will treat me as an evader. So an evader's posture is, once me and Preston start evading, we are no longer pursuing military objectives. We are no longer engaging personnel. We are simply trying to get home. Now, the minute we violate those rules, well, then we're a combatant again. But my point is if somebody's following the law of armed conflict, just evade, just get away. If you get captured, it sucks, but they're not going to execute you on the spot because you are within the rules of war. Now, a lot of my training was when we were dealing with ISIS. ISIS burned a fellow Muslim alive in a cage. What do you think they're going to do to you? So I'm not saying we're fighting ISIS specifically, but if you have an enemy who is not following the law of armed conflict, well, then your invasion posture might still include some combat, because if they were to capture you, they're going to saw off your head on national TV. So think about who you're dealing with and evade, and think about your evasion posture in that manner. That's going to be important. In the case of both me and Preston, we know where our front lines are. We know our front lines are 12 miles to the east. So we're going to be heading east in order to get repatriated or brought back into our unit so that we can continue to fight the fight. No last stand stuff. You're going to be much more useful as a part of a team. So that's going to be our goals here today. Now, for today, what we're going to do as well is we're going to go ahead and show you a little bit of some field evasion survival medicine. This is going to be quite different from what you typically see from TCCC or any type of wilderness survival medicine that you might have known at this point. So we're going to start with a good old tourniquet right here. So if I were shot in the lower calf right here, it's bleeding. We can't get that thing stopped. So we're going to get this tourniquet out right here, and we're going to have Preston apply it above the level. So just below the knee, we can't tourniquet the knee, so we're just gonna apply that tourniquet right here. So a tourniquet is nice because a tourniquet can stop bleeding very, very quickly. Now, the problem being with a tourniquet is if I leave it on for too long, well, what's gonna happen?
You're gonna not get any circulation to your leg, and your cells are gonna start to die.
Exactly, so my leg will begin to die. Now, the problem being is we might not be getting in to friendly forces for a week. I can't keep a tourniquet on for a week, so what we need to be able to do is what's called reduce a tourniquet. So for reducing a tourniquet, what we're going to be doing is we assume we put this on during initial evasion. At some point in this hide site, we've gotten where we are. My wound has set a clot, and what we can begin to do is we can actually begin on working on removing that tourniquet so that I can still live. Now, this isn't going to work for every situation, but at least try if the clot has completely set. So all you're going to be doing is when you do a tourniquet, you're going to do a certain amount of windlass twists. These are going to tighten the amount of force that you're putting on that tourniquet. So all I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be gently allowing those to start to untwist. As I'm doing this, if my wound are right here, Preston's going to be keeping an eye on it to see if the clot blows out. In addition to that, he can also take a bandage, apply that pressure there as well to try to keep that clot into place. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be slowly letting off on that. So long as that clot doesn't blow, I can begin to let that off almost completely to just put a teeny bit of pressure. We'll apply a compression bandage to there to then convert from a tourniquet to a pressure bandage. Now, if you have a really bad wound where the tourniquet was absolutely necessary, there's not going to be a lot that you can really do. Realistically, you're probably going to lose a leg. That's life. Better to lose a leg than lose a life. So just as a quick note for a little bit of survival medicine for you guys. So we've figured out what we need to do in our initial hide site. We've got it done. We're feeling good. We know we need to move from here because we can't just hold in this position. No rescue's coming. It's all up to us. So the first thing we're going to be talking about is evasion movement. We've previously done evasion movement, the thumbs up, all that kind of stuff. We're going to be doing a more advanced evasion movement, which is as you work as a team together, you'll learn that you really don't need to do that as much. Evasion movement is nice. It only moves from the rear. That means if I'm in the lead, I'm only moving when I see Preston move. So I'm going to be moving to a point of concealment that's still within eyesight of Preston. I'm going to look back at Preston. Preston will make eye contact with me. If everything's good, he'll stand up and begin to move. Once I see him moving, I'll move to my next site. He'll go to where I was, and we'll continue to leapfrog like that. Now, if I look back at Preston and there's something wrong, he'll give me a halt command right next to his face or right in front of his face. Or if he really needs to, if he gives me the halt command because he's listening, then he can give me a thumbs up after if we're ready to move. Basic hand signals are going to begin to become very important right here, but if we don't need to use them, we don't need to use them. Move like you're hunting, move like you're being hunted. Let's go ahead and start. We'll give you guys more principles as we move. I'll start and I'll look back at you. Okay, once I get here, we're gonna stop, look, listen, smell, waiting for it to get completely quiet. Look back at Preston. As soon as he starts moving, that's when I move. So you give me a halt command. If there's anybody else, I'm gonna give the same command. So if we're larger than a two-man team, we're all gonna echo it. So if I see him do it, everybody's gonna do it at once. As team lead, I'm gonna be watching him. He gives me a thumbs up, I give it back. Then once he moves, I'll start moving. So, as you can see, we're doing a mixture of different signals. At times, there's no motion. We just make eye contact. Everything's good. We keep moving. As signals are needed to be given, they are given. This is good communication. This is good squad level movement for evasion movement. Let's continue. So now we're going to continue this movement until several things are going to happen. We need to lower or raise our evasion posture. So what I mean by that is we can go to a lower posture, i.e. lower threat level, and we can move it more like a combat patrol. So let's talk about that for a moment. Now, if you notice, we're just walking, not super sneaky, we're walking pretty casual. This is a low to medium threat movement. Now, if we're confident, we're so far away, we need to make time, we can go to an even lower posture of evasion, and that's going to be a combat movement, a combat patrol. Now, when we talk combat movement, combat patrols, big things are going to be spacing, and then of course, sectors of fire. Now with a two-man team, how we're typically going to do it is as a front guy, I'll take my front 180 to the right. Preston will take to the left and the 180 to the rear. Now, how does Preston look to the rear? What Preston's going to be doing is not on a schedule, but randomly, he'll be turning around, taking steps backwards, and watching. If he feels it necessary, you can give me a halt command as well, because I'll be occasionally looking back at him, and we can watch to see who's behind us. Now, the reason he does the random turns to look back at random intervals is you don't want an enemy who's pursuing you to be able to time that well. So we want to make sure that we're doing it randomly. So we're going to get to a good location. We're going to do a little bit of low threat evasion, combat patrol movement. Then we'll show you high threat movement. Next thing is going to be our low threat evasion movement. So first thing we need to think about is going to be spacing. Grenade range sucks. And if a grenade can take you both out, that sucks even more. So you want to keep about 5 to 10 paces between you and your buddy to ensure that if a grenade does go off, it doesn't kill you both, or claymore goes off. So that's the first thing we'll be thinking about. Next up is going to be our sectors of fire. There's going to be sectors that I'm going to be responsible for to be watching. As a two-man team, this sucks, but life is what it is. I'm going to be having the front 180 and right side. Preston is going to have the left side right here and the back. Now, if you notice, we have our rifles. We would typically orient rifles in a way that it's easy to point that direction. So if I'm looking off to my right, one thing that I'll do is I'll actually switch my gun so that it's easier to look off this direction so I can react more quickly. This is typical of any combat patrol. Preston will be taking those random steps to the rear. We'll start. And again, the thing here is we're moving carefully like we're being hunted, but there's less of a threat right here. So we'll begin. You ready? Now we're doing all the stuff we've talked about before. We're not stepping on logs. We're scout walking. We're doing all that stuff you guys already know. We're not going to preach to the choir here. This is big boy rules right now. We're going to occasionally stop, look, listen. What are we listening for, Preston?
Snapping sticks, voices.
Vehicles, helicopters, drones, anything that sounds not like nature or like nature. What happens if a bunch of birds stop talking, Preston?
There's something there.
There you have it. Be in tune with your environment, guys. And we're smelling. Smelling for what the enemy smells like. Everybody's got to smell. Gunpowder, fire, food, cigarettes, marijuana. All of them smell like something and can be indicative of who you're dealing with. Vape. Try to keep those smells to the minimum on you guys if you're out patrolling. Now, if I were to hear something or see something, I might not always have the time to let Preston know to give him a signal to get down. So if I suddenly go prone, everybody's going to go prone. And we're gonna hold this position until the individual that went prone or gave the call gives the all clear. All right, so that is our basic low threat evasion movement combat patrol. As you can see, it's still slow, it's still deliberate, and we're still making sure that we're being as cautious as possible, but it is a riskier movement technique. The next thing that we're going to be talking about is going to be our high threat evasion movement. So this is no shit. I think that there are people really close. We're being actively hunted. What can we do? Let's talk about it. Nature is so beautiful, isn't it, Sawyer?
It really is.
Hey, Mike, what if we
I have the talking sick. It's my turn to talk right now. Next up, we're going to be doing high threat evasion movement. This is no kidding. We're pretty sure guys are fairly close by, so we need to be able to minimize the amount of sound we're making to small increments of time. In addition to that, we of course want to keep our visual signature extremely low. We're going to do this two ways. One, we're going to move together for 5 to 7 paces before we find cover. We're going to do just like we did with that medium threat evasion movement, except we're going to be moving much more carefully. And if we need to, at times we'll low crawl as well. So we'll start with some of that high threat movement. Same stuff we did before, just much more slow, deliberate, taking your time, being aware of your surroundings. You ready to get frothy?
Good to go.
Start. So I'm going to move, and then once I've found that first cover, look back at Preston, move from the rear, just like before, just much more slow. Checking back to Preston occasionally to make sure he's not giving me an inherent signal, let me know that there's danger nearby. You don't have to find a really good hiding spot. You're just looking for concealment. Cover if you can. Okay, we'll have SERE stop moving for a moment. You can hear how we sound. So I just gave Preston a command to stop, then lay down. As soon as I've done that, if you notice, I've angled my rifle in a direction. That direction is going to let Preston know the direction that I see a potential threat. At this point, Preston's covering the other sector, and he's watching me as well. So we can use simple hand signals to describe what I'm seeing. I see foot mobile 2. Moving from our rear to our front. So different hand signals for different things are going to depend on the military unit. For a lot of military units, tank, you can also do plane, drone. There's a lot of different ways to signal it. And what I'm going to recommend to you guys is that within your team, you have some standardization that you guys all practice together. I don't want to specifically out specific TTPs of military units because, frankly, they're still using them today, and I don't want to, potentially give out secrets or anything like that. So come up with your own, but just have it easily recognizable and easily recognizable at a distance. But generally, it's going to be I hear, I see, then describe what you're seeing and the number. So it'd be I see packs, personnel, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can have something different for division. The point is, have these good signals. And I let them know after, we're going to stay here prone until we hear them pass. Now, we're not in the most ideal spot. But if I see them so close that any type of movement is going to draw their eye, we're going to sit, we're going to allow our natural camouflage we already have on to work for us, and we're going to allow them to pass. Once they pass, I'm going to wait for those forest sounds to return. I'm going to wait for the return of birds, the return of just that normal sound and ambience that lets me know that they have passed. The whole time, me and Preston are still occasionally looking at each other as well as covering our sectors of fire. And then we're going to continue our high threat evasion. And we got a scout walk. Roll those feet. Watch these twigs. Listen. Want to make sure you're not making any type of noise at all possible. Take those branches, try not to break them, swim them out of the way. Now, up here we have a road. Typically we're going to be about 50 to 100 meters off the road if we're coming up to it. Sometimes you can't help it. So I'm going to let Preston know what I see. I'm letting him know I see linear danger area. Linear danger area being a road, river, something along those lines. I'm going to let him know to rally up on me. He's then going to come to me. If there are more people, once Preston comes up to me, he's going to pass that rally up command, but everyone's still going to go place to place, stop, look, listen, smell. So we had a third guy, Preston look back at him and give him the rally up call as well. And we're all going to be passing back the IC linear danger area as well. So at this point, what I'm going to do, by the way, don't eat white berries. What I'm going to do here is we're going to come up and we're going to do a high threat movement across this road. So this is typically done with 2 or more. They can also be done with 2. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go up first and do a little bit of reconnoitering. I'm going to take a look at the road. If possible, we're going to get it at the bend. We happen to be on a bend in the road. So I'm going to get nice and low. I'm going to crawl up to it. So coming up to a road or embankment, I'm going to pie it just like I would a doorway. I'm leading with my rifle. I'm keeping my head low and I'm angling myself. So I'm trying to see just one part of the road before I check the opposite. I'm going to change positions. Once I'm reasonably certain that I don't have anybody on the road that's going to make this crossing problematic, I'm going to call Preston up to me, and he's going to be clearing the opposite direction of me. Now, Preston's taking the opposite direction. Now, what we've done is we've created essentially a corridor. So if you come take a look here, this direction, look over there, we have a bend. That means there's less probability of us being seen on this road. Now, it also makes it harder to see other people, but this is much safer for us. Same goes for there. We have another bend down the road there. This is a great place to cross at. You can see we've made this corridor between us. This is our safety corridor. So anybody that was with us could cross up across between us, and then they could set up the same security on the opposite side of the road, therefore keeping it clear for us. Now, because it's just me and Preston, one side's going to be uncovered. So me and Preston know, based off of our standard operating procedure, that the first guy up is going to be the first guy across. So I'm going to be up. We've stopped, looked, listened, smelled once we've gotten here. We're good. Step back to Preston. Give him a shoulder squeeze, let him know I'm going across. Get up this road. As soon as I prone out, then Preston's coming right to me. when he comes past me, he's gonna tap me on the leg. And he's gonna keep running. Okay. Then we're both gonna move. Once we've gotten past the road, me and Preston are gonna do another small movement of about 100 to 150 meters. All we're trying to do, a little gas, all we're gonna do is get away from eyesight of the road. That's all we're looking to do. So we're gonna continue to move. We're gonna get some distance between us, and then we'll go back to our high threat evasion movement.
Well, I was just talking about time I was crossing an LDA.
Most danger area for my uninitiated.
Near danger area. So if you're doing it in a bigger element, like what we're used to, say platoon size, right? You push security both directions. So it's two-man teams, and they're both on usually a 240. So there's a 240 and an M4 both directions. From there, you push a couple more teams through. They get across from your security on the road on the other side. And this leaves 4 barrels looking down each side of the road where you start funneling guys through. But where it gets tough is we were training recently and there's a bend in the road, some major terrain features like a large hill, a lot of trees and a river coming through, like a creek. It was loud enough. And we got caught by OPFOR because we didn't hear him coming with
The hill.
The creek, and everybody else. So
It's a real bitch.
it's kind of tough.
It's one good thing about evasion though, guys. So when we talk evasion, rivers mask sound, hills mask sound. You can see they could have OPFOR vehicles coming that close to them. So when we talk about putting this terrain between you and your attackers, it really does work. Another thing to consider is bad weather. If we can get bad weather on our side, that is the time to move. Heavy rains, lightning storms, snowstorms, blizzards. Not only does this mask your movements, cover your tracks, but in addition, it makes it very hard for both drones and aerial assets to operate. It also messes up a lot of optical sensors. This is all stuff that can work towards you. It sucks, but that's life, right, Preston?
What?
All right, so the thing that we need to be is we've been moving right now. We need to find a hide site because we are exhausted. We've been traveling for a day at this point. We are smoked. So we need to get a hide site somewhere that we can finally rest, recuperate, and keep going. And we can talk about that. So we're going to high threat move until we find our hide site. You ready? All right, we're back in the scenario. As you're moving, you want to make sure that you have your eyes scanning the horizon. You obviously got to watch your foot placement. And this is why it's so important to spend time in the woods with your boys, with your family, with your spouse, the loved ones, and practice this. The only way you get good at moving in the woods is by moving in the woods. Now, another thing to think about, guys, is going to be we have a lot of powerful stuff on us. Besides firepower-wise, in addition, we have optics. So we can actually use those optics to scan our horizon or scan areas that we're going to. Use what you have around you. Binoculars would be best, but magnified optics like the ACOG, or Preston has a full-on sniper rifle. So him being able to have that magnified optic allows us to scope out locations that otherwise we wouldn't be able to see, and to make us even more safe. Use what you have to your advantage. Heard a little vehicle out there. Some people dirt biking, but fun to put in the scenario. Okay, right here, we're at a pretty bad location. By bad, I mean it sucks to navigate through. So if you'll pan down through here, we're in a draw right now. So draw is between these raised finger ridges coming off a mountain. What this causes is, one, water to run off down them. This causes trees to, one, grow very thickly right here. Then they also collapse into it because it's so steep. These are great areas to look for when it comes to a height site. Now, I'm not going to insult you guys' intelligence. At this point, we've talked about height sites a lot, and we've talked about J-hooking into them, so we're not going to talk about that. Merely what we're going to go through here is how to construct a height site that's going to be big enough for you, your buddy, and your equipment. And then we're going to talk about how to keep security going when you're in your height site. The easiest way to think about it is with the BLISS principle. That stands for blend, low, irregular, secluded, small, or shine. So, and sound. So all those together, as Sawyer almost eats shit down there, all those together will make for a very good shelter. So if you come right with me right over here, we'll show you where we're going to put our BLISS shelter. Again, with our BLISS, we're not looking for sectors of fire. We're looking to hide as effectively as we can.
BLISS is giving me some real Far Cry 5 vibes.
Dude, I love that game so much. I wish it was just a little bit more realism based. That would have been so cool. Okay, take a look at this right here. This is a little area. See all these trees that have fallen? I could build a really good BLISS shelter in here. So I think we're going to make it right here. Now, when you're making your BLISS shelter, you want to use natural as well as constructed camouflage elements. Now, one of the things we're most worried about is going to be drones and thermals. So the first thing we've done, if you look right over here, it is thick overhead vegetation to make it very difficult to spot us. And in addition to that, we're going to put up other barriers to make it even more difficult. So we're going to start constructing this right now. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take our rifles. We're going to set them inside our BLISS shelter right here. We're getting our packs off because we have our thermal tarps in here that are made by Relv, and these will help keep us nice and safe. Okay, so you're going to have to make a little bit of noise when you're making your BLISS shelter. That's why we try to get it as secluded as possible. You're only going to do this when you know you're far from enemy. Now, sound might sound intense right now, but really, sound doesn't travel that far in a forest. So, understand that there is a time to make some noise. And a big thing is going to be a lot of this detritus on the ground. Try to get it up so we don't make as much noise as we're sleeping. You might have a question. Airman Jones, Lieutenant Jones, what about if I snore? That's a great question. One, you should work on that, figure out why you're snoring. And then two, that's another reason why we have a secluded shelter. Ultimately, if you're alone, you're not going to know when you snore. But if I'm snoring with my buddy, he's going to rouse me to make sure I'm not snoring. Now, if you notice, I'm taking all this vegetation that I'm moving and I'm keeping it nearby. So I'm going to use that to naturalize this once we're done with the shelter out there. Yeah, that's going to fit both me and Preston in here. And we use our tarps to cover the tops and the sides, and we can add some natural vegetation to make it a little bit harder to see. Then you guys are going to tell us how good we did. So these tarps from Relv are thermal. They have thermal coatings and thermal cooling, so it makes it very difficult for thermal to look through it. Even the most expensive ones, very famously, the guy who owns Relv Camo, he brought these to one of the trade shows, and one of the huge thermal manufacturers used their vehicle thermal mount to try to look through it, and they couldn't, and they kicked him out of the show. And you can buy these, so he's a good guy. We vouch for him. Okay. Now, as far as putting it up, you can, of course, utilize high downs, and you can really get this taut and stuff. But actually, with these more expedient shelters, you don't want to do that. We want to try to keep them just kind of hung up. That way, when we're ready, we can just grab these and run. And you don't want them tied down or anything when it comes to an evasion shelter.
What if you get like someone who's saying like, oh, what about a tarp? What would a tarp work?
It can. They're going to heat up a little bit more quickly, but they will protect you thermally for a little bit. If you notice, there's both an impregnated lining as well as ventilation for this to ensure that this keeps cool from your body heat. So as we sleep, as we're sitting in here, the thing that you're going to see a difference between things that are constructed to be thermally destructive and things that are not is that over time, these will keep cool and regulate to the temperature of everything around, compared to like a tarp, which will begin to heat up from your body heat. Another thing is going to be, don't take everything from right around your shelter, because then you're going to have a really built up bush and nothing around it. We want to keep this looking as natural as possible. So you're going to go out further to pull in what you need. In addition, come look at this. Look at the hillside, how it looks. We can see what plants are here. We know we need to blend in. So we're going to add that to make it as natural looking as possible. Okay, let's go get some stuff. Got us zeroed. One thing that Preston brings up, and there's a difference between your combat and your evasion work, but for this, Preston, go ahead and ask me for what you're asking.
Well, I asked for this if it's kind of like any other stationary task, is where you have one guy keeping guard while the other guy works.
Yeah, absolutely. That's also an option. It really depends on your time, how much time you have left to do it, how much time you had to do it, threat level, but in general, if you have the manpower to do it, absolutely. So brings up a good point, and there are some differences between combat shelters and non-fighting positions versus fighting positions, but that's an awesome point and a good point to bring up as well. So we have it constructed. Let's go ahead, let's climb into our hide site here. Let's take a look at it before we do that from different angles and kind of see what we're working with here. Okay, so we built this on the downslope of the hill, and that was on purpose. As you can see, unless we get down into the draw, unless we're right on top of it, I can't even see it from here. And that's good. We're below the eye level, small, secluded location. This is perfect. Because here's the thing. You can evade as much as you want, but you're eventually going to need to rest. If you stop sleeping, things get weird. Going through selection for TACP, part of it is a exercise without sleep for about 4 days. And I will tell you that by about day 2 and 3, I was starting to hallucinate pretty bad. I remember they were giving me instructions for my team, and it was like 2 a.m. and I was looking at him, but there's a cloud behind him and it was illuminated by the sun, and it kept turning into like a crab. So I kept laughing. He's like, "Lieutenant, are you fucking serious right now?" I was like, "I'm sorry, there's a crab. I don't know what to do." He was like, "Pull it together." But no, for real, hallucinations will get you, sleep deprivation will get you. I know the Army prides itself on not sleeping. Like during NTC, this guy was like, "I haven't slept for a week." I'm like, "I'm sure you're great at your job right now, but try to sleep if you can." So let's talk about our actions once we're in our hide site. Okay, we're now in our hide site. Now we're going to realistically speak here. For the most part, you're going to be traveling at dawn and dusk. The reason we travel at dawn and dusk is because of the thermal change that occurs during that time. That being that the ground begins to heat up and cool unevenly. This makes it much more difficult for thermal-based sensors to detect you. So a lot of the time during evasion, through exercises, etc., I would typically sleep during the day. I might move at night if I have night vision or the, terrain allows me to do so. But for the most part, dawn, dusk, and besides that, kind of sleep, rest, and let everything pass you by. So the question is, how do we sleep? So what we're going to do is we're going to sleep in shifts. If you haven't slept in shifts, it sucks. There's no way around it. Now, there's a couple different ways to do this. Once we get into our hide site, one of us is going to take first shift. Generally, being the leader of the group, I'm going to take the first shift. That's just the way I tend to do it. That way I get a teeny bit more sleep in the morning, and then we'll alternate it the next day that we do it. So you can do it in shifts of 2 hours and shifts of 4 hours. What have you typically done for your shifts?
We usually just do 1 hour.
Ooh, that's rough for 2 dudes. So
Yeah, it would be horrible for 2 dudes.
yeah, for 2 dudes. So 2 dudes, you got to increase it a little bit. 2 to 3 hours is my go-to. So for 2 to 3 hours, Preston will sleep while I keep watch. So what am I doing during watch? Well, I'm still going to be in the hide site. Some people like to get outside the hide site and look from a greater vantage point. But during evasion, I want to keep my thermal signature as low as possible. So I'm going to stay in the hide site. Now I'm simply listening, looking. We've also set different types of traps around here. Now these aren't traps in the sense of the way you think about them. They're simply noise traps. They're things that we know are out there. Pine cones, dead, dry, thin sticks on various paths of entry. Now, these in of themselves aren't going to alert people to the fact that they're coming near a shelter, but they're going to alert us. I prefer those natural means much more than I prefer the artificial ones, like rocks in a tin can. I'm sure you've seen those in barbed wire and stuff, and you can use those noise-making devices, but for me, I like the natural so it doesn't alert the enemy as well. So for those 2 to 3 hours, I'm staying awake. I'm making sure that nobody's coming upon us. If they do, then we're ready to bail at any moment. But the question is, how do you stay awake? That's tough. What I've typically done is I'll put myself into an uncomfortable position. So if you're right here, I'm going to take this guy. I'm going to make sure I'm sitting up partially. I'm going to make it uncomfortable. I'm not going to lay back. I'm going to make sure I have to have some amount of muscle tension on my core, and that's going to help keep me awake. Things I've also done is also taken like a stub or a stick, and I put it under my chest or under my butt to put pressure on me, so it hurts and it sucks, but it keeps me awake, because you cannot fall asleep during watch. If you do, you could possibly get yourself and your buddy killed, and you don't want that on your conscience when you go to the afterlife. Preston would be super pissed.
Yeah, I'd be hell mad.
Okay, so after I've slept for 2 to 3 hours, I'm simply gonna grab him by the shoulder, gentle squeeze until he wakes up. I don't want to startle him and be like, oh my God. So I'm going to squeeze him gently to let him know. I'll say, all clear, it's your turn. First, I say, 1 pax, 50 meters. And then we're going to have a much different reaction to that. But no matter what, gentle wake ups. If you're the type of guy that startles awake, freaking go to a therapist, dude. Figure your shit out. Preston, you want to talk about how you keep yourself awake?
Oh man, I think everybody knows the
cheat code.
The old boot camp special, and that's the little bottle of hand sanitizer they give you. You sit there and you huff that. That'll keep you awake.
Yep, that will do it.
I mean, what you were just speaking about is just keeping yourself uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's honestly going to be your best bet.
A lot of people use caffeine and nicotine. Those work as well. Those also possibly create smells. You might not have it with you, so don't rely on those too much. Learn to be uncomfortable and be okay with it and be able to go from there. Now, in addition, once we're in our hide site, we want to make sure that we're prioritizing our work. Now, infantryman right here, of course, that's going to be something that you're well accustomed to. Do you want to speak a little bit to what that means, prioritizing your work?
There's certain things that have to be done before other things. So sleep is going to be one of your last items. Hygiene is going to be one of your last items, but you got to get stuff done.
Team gear. Like when I think of like priorities of work, I'm thinking like team gear, right? So like radios, belt-fed weapons, making sure the ammo's sorted and all that kind of stuff, making sure rations are sorted, grenades. We're gonna pass up to each other if we're missing any items, such as, hey, I dropped my knife, etc., or something like that. If I'm missing items, if I'm down on ammo, this is our time to reconstitute, make sure that our weapons are still up, that our equipment still works. After that, we can take a look at our personal equipment, personal knives, personal accoutrements. I'm gonna clean out my weapon if I need to, keep it in working order, give it some oil. And then finally, the last thing I'm gonna take care of is gonna be myself. That's when I'm gonna, sponge myself off. I'm gonna take like a stick, for example, like if I'm in this hide site, I'm gonna chew it a little bit. I'm gonna use that to scrub my teeth, because toothpaste also is going to make a smell and possibly something that dogs could pick up on. So I want to avoid that. So I'm gonna do my own personal hygiene, wipe myself, pour bath, that type of stuff. I don't think you can say that. Can you say that? It's basically like taking like a cloth, like a wet wipe or a washcloth, and wiping yourself down. It's so messed up. I'm sorry, 1870s French woman of the night. So that's what we're going to do for priorities of work. We're of course going to assess our situation. Where are we? We take a look at our map. Where are we? How much further do we need to go? Do we have the provisions to do so? Do we have the water to do so? Do we have the food to do so? These are all things we want to take a look at. Guys, we've already gone over water. We've already gone over food. There's not much I really need to impress upon you on this point when it comes to this. We'll talk more about stealing food when we go into urban and suburban environments. But the best advice I have for you, if you must steal food, make sure that you do it at the edge of a field, do it at the edge of a civilization, and never ever come back to that location ever again, because never return to the scene of the crime. And then at that point, we're going to get a rest. In this case, we're going to be sleeping all day, so that gives us a good 2 to 3 hours of rest. If you're really feeling Johnny on the spot, you can take a double shift and just let your buddy sleep if you really feel that that's something that you can handle. But again, don't push yourself just to be a man. You both need to be in good fighting and working condition to be able to function. And guys, unfortunately, that's primarily what you're going to be working with as a team. It's going to be a never-ending cycle of evasion movement, high threat, medium threat, low threat, moving to height sites, reconstituting your gear, grabbing water as necessary, working together as a team, and trying to stay sane and keep it together while you make it back to your home and to your families. In the case of a full-on civil breakdown of the United States, you might be working with military personnel. You might be working with civilian personnel as a military guy. These are two entities that should learn to work together. America is built upon citizen soldiers. So make sure as a citizen that you train yourself to that level of infantryman, as somebody who served in the military, because we might count on you guys at some point. I believe in the United States. I believe that we could get through something like this, but we need to work together. And that's kind of the theme of what we're going over today. So guys, remember, the things that are going to keep you alive are not just your skills, but your will to survive. A lot of people in these situations, I've seen it on tons of videos, will be like, well, what's the point? A drone's going to kill me. Cool. People have probably thought that throughout history. When artillery was first invented, people were like, well, what's the point? I'm just going to get blown up by artillery. Or when the rifle was first invented, well, what's the point? I'm going to get shot from 200 yards away. The point is, guys, there's always going to be technology that's going to make warfare feel helpless. Don't feel helpless. Where there's a will, there's always a way. And plenty of people have been able to evade drones and evade FPV drones by using smart tactics, staying in wooded, densely forested areas, moving at dawn and dusk, keeping overhead cover above you, and utilization of thermal camouflages or even personal thermal camouflages, which we haven't gone over today, but we have gone over in other videos and will be the focus of future advanced evasion videos. Preston, is there anything you'd like to add for everybody? Learn to just...
I think you covered it.
Just learn to suck the suck, to love the suck, right? Is that what they say?
Yeah. What are the
Embrace the suck.
embrace the suck.
That's what they used to say,
that's
right?
The thing.
That's the thing. Is that what Zoomers say?
Yeah. I think so.
Is a glizzy a hot dog or a gun?
Who the fuck calls a gun a glizzy?
Dude, there was this guy in First Special Forces group, and we said glizzy. He goes, "You mean a gat?" And I'm like, "What?" And he was like, "Yeah, like a gat." I'm like, "No, a glizzy's a hot dog." And he's like, "No, it's a gun." So there's a little bit of I don't know if I don't trust your generation. I guess is all I'm saying.
It's a hot dog.
Guys, thank you so much for watching. Remember, train now, because an ounce of preparation is going to mean a pound of knowledge when it comes to an actual situation. Thank you so much for watching, guys. We got nothing else for you. Final thing for you guys would be a little bit of dad advice. What we'll say for dad advice, what we always say, get some fresh air, enjoy nature, rub some dirt on you, do it with your kids, do it with your wife, get out here, have fun. There's nothing that's funner than doing this. You mean you're getting paid to do this right now, Preston?
Yeah, it's as good as a job can get right here.
Yeah, and for some reason the Army sucks, but this is fun. I don't understand how that works.
No,
just kidding.
It's an anomaly.
Just kidding. We love the military. Guys, don't forget the Patreon. Patreon has all these clips, tons of cool stuff, and it's basically everything that we don't want to show you guys. Yeah. But Preston will show you. I mean, excuse me, Sawyer will. I can't even talk anymore. But Sawyer will show you.
It's true. And also, if you want to see what these guys are wearing in this video, it will be uploaded tomorrow on the Patreon.
Go and check it out, guys. All right, guys. Stay cool. Try this stuff out. We got nothing else for you for now.